Hey, hey, hey. It looks like I timed my music right for once. Another day, another look on the vertical show. And so we're just trying out and experimenting with different look and feels in the vertical format and seeing where we get to. And today I've gone as far as colour matching my lights in the background over here with the border and things like that, just to see what it looks like on our phone on replay. But before we get any further, let's bring on my co-host. By the way, I should have mentioned I'm Martin McKenna, by the way, live in sunny Edinburgh.
Hello, and I'm Neil Faramond, and I am live in, it is sunny still, in Portugal. How are you doing, Martin?
Lucky for you, over in Portugal, we seem to have had just either wind or rain, or wind and rain, or wind and rain and snow and hail yesterday as well.
Oh,
So
gosh.
yeah, not the best of conditions. So we just thought we'd try out this look and feel today. It's totally different from last week's look and feel and the week before's and things like that. And my vague thoughts behind this were we've got plenty of space to work with down below us as we're sitting here at the moment, and we're going to come back and see how we can utilize that space so we could bring in comments, videos, presentations, stuff like that below Neil and myself. And in terms of layout on the page, my feeling was this is kind of like a pair of eyes almost if you're looking at the phone. So that seemed to me to be a good location for myself and Neil. But what are we actually doing technically? So this is a bit where I hand over to Neil, and he has to remember all of the elements in the video that I put together. So it could go terribly wrong. If it does,
Probably.
he's had no chance to rehearse this. So it's over to Neil to explain exactly what we are doing and what you are looking at, and then we'll come back and tell you a few more secrets.
So what Martin has done to start with, he's actually created a Ecamm profile that's set up in a tall profile, so it's running in 9:16, so that's the vertical aspect ratio that you need to set your Ecamm to. And let's not forget that I'm actually coming into Martin's production here via Zoom, so we are actually running a Zoom call. Now we've put a link in the chat for our Zoom guests, and each of these Zoom guests would come into the Zoom call as normal. And as each of those guests come in, Martin has the unenviable task of then assigning each of those guests to a particular camera in the various scenes that he's created in this vertical presentation. And then from there, how are we actually getting this stream out to you? So we're using Restream to multi-stream to a number of different destinations: my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Martin's YouTube channel, his LinkedIn. And Restream is doing all that heavy lifting for us and allowing all our users to see our wonderful faces on the various channels. And that's how we're doing it right now.
So congratulations, Neil. You got all the way through that. So
Thank you.
So it's quite a complicated setup that we've got going on here, purely because we're going out to multiple channels. So we're live at the moment on LinkedIn, Neil's LinkedIn, my LinkedIn, and 2 YouTube channels. If you're watching us live on your phone, we thoroughly recommend that you go over to either my YouTube channel or Neil's YouTube channel and watch this. Because if you're watching us live on LinkedIn on your phone, we're going to feel very, very tiny in the middle of the screen because it still thinks we're in landscape, even though we're streaming vertically. Now, the weird thing about LinkedIn is if you're watching this on the replay, totally the opposite applies. We highly recommend that you watch it on the LinkedIn app on your phone, because it will appear full screen on your phone with almost no nonsense over the top in terms of texts and buttons and stuff like that. You can even just press the button on your phone and it will be full screen with absolutely no interference at all over the top. So we're living in a weird world with LinkedIn at the moment, where we're not quite sure what they are doing with the vertical format. We know that they're really pushing it at the moment, and that they are rolling out a button on the app so that you can flick through the vertical content. And there is also now, I believe, and Neil, you might have seen this actually, when you're looking at the button, because Neil has got that button on the app, I don't have at the moment, do you see a subscribe button pop up?
Oh, you mean for the individual users that are posting the video? So yeah, if you go to LinkedIn, they used to have, as Martin said, they used to have the videos set up on just on the browser side, but because they've now added this video channel, I'm just going to turn the volume down. You can basically give a thumbs up, make a comment, and share, and you can also bookmark. But you can't, I think, go to the, or at least connect or follow directly from the app. So I think you have to go into their. Yes. Oh, you can actually. So you can follow the person. So but it's a bit.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird. So on the right-hand side, you have all the buttons to like, share, and make a comment. And then you have to click on the actual user's profile themselves, the person who's actually sharing the video, to be able to follow and connect that way. So it is giving you the opportunity to be more interactive and connect with the people that are sharing the video. But it's I didn't know that it was there. It's not that intuitive, sorry.
Yeah. So I think they probably realised that's the case. I was watching something from a LinkedIn expert earlier today, and they were saying that the follow button is effectively going to be bigger and more obvious, so that you can get content of a similar description to what you just watched, or follow that individual. So I mean, when you think about it, LinkedIn has got so much data in the background on every individual, and they've got Microsoft behind them with all of their AI tools. They could definitely do the equivalent of a TikTok on you based upon your behaviour and what you're watching, and then suggesting alternative contact or content without the sneaky bit where it's watching your face at the same time. So I think that, we're in a weird world with LinkedIn at the moment. Don't think anybody's doing quite what we're doing and pushing it quite as far, but it's led us to all sorts of different paths and trying things out. So it's almost by accident that we tried out vertical video and then found out that on the replay it looks tremendous and in vertical, but on live it's still not working. Where did that leave me this week? I was looking at what happens if I stream to a company page rather than my own page. So at the moment we're streaming to Neil's personal page and my personal page on LinkedIn, and not a company page. Now I know in the past I have definitely live streamed to a company page. So when I did that, I didn't have any problems at all. But today I thought, well, I'm just going to try using Restream to plug into my company page as well. So in theory, with Restream, you can just add in additional destinations and it will pump the content out to those destinations. However, it didn't like me adding in my personal page. And after a little bit more research, we found out that basically you need 150 followers on your company page. And I don't have that, because I didn't really ever use my company page. So I think I've got 44 followers. I've got 5,000 on my personal page, but only 44 on the company page, because I didn't really use it. However, digging into things further, it becomes apparent that actually streaming to your company page might be a very, very good idea, because the layout of the company page is far superior to that of your personal page. So on your personal page, if people want to have a look at video content that you previously have done and have then want to look at it on the replay, they probably have to flick down a list and hope to see the video that they are looking for. And in quite a few cases, thumbnails seem to disappear after a period of time, and the stuff doesn't appear in order, any sensible order or anything like that. However, on a company page, if you go and have a look at a company profile, if they go to a company and you find that they've done a bunch of videos, what you're going to see is those videos are neatly presented as ones that are going to happen today, ones that are up and coming, and then all of their past content as well. So it's much more like a kind of YouTube look and feel in terms of, here's what they're doing today, here's what they did recently, and here's what they've done in the past. Or, sorry, this is what they got in the future, and here's what they've done recently. And it's really quite a nice layout as well. So what I need to do is to get my number up to 150 or ask LinkedIn about that so that I can go and experiment a little further. Because the other things that are benefits really of a company page is if you stream from a company page, you can ask people to complete a registration form. And if you've got the registration form, then you can follow up by sending out information to those people about additional streams that you might be doing or related products or things like that. So in the case of myself and Neil, we're looking to put together some how-to videos on LinkedIn, going live on LinkedIn, and those will be productized, so they'll be in a box. So those would be on my company page as a product. So if you were looking around at the videos, then you can say, oh, they've got a product which is about going live on LinkedIn, or green screen, or Rode audio mixers, or whatever the product happens to be. You can go and see that on the company page. So it makes total sense for us to be going live on the company page and then driving the traffic to the company page rather than the personal page. And the other reason for doing that is that over time I've gained my 5,000 odd followers because I had an events business. 90% of those people are no longer interested in what I'm doing. So really what I should be doing is refining that list and qualifying it down. So potentially moving people over to the company page for me is a qualification exercise. It's like, well, sorry, I didn't really want to bother you people who have previously connected with me. So new connections who are interested in what I'm doing these days, well, maybe follow the company page, and that might be a good qualification exercise. But we only really discovered this today as a sort of a general concept. So in the process of digging in, basically, aren't we?
Yeah, and what's interesting is I didn't realize that the layout is really different on the branded page or the business page, if you like, compared to the one that you have in the personal one. And obviously LinkedIn is designed for connections, job applications, looking at what is out there and recruitment and so on. Yet they don't really, I didn't even realize they had that capability on the pages, or I would have maybe done something different as well. But as individuals, we would create our own personal profile. And then if you work for a business, maybe that business would have its own profile as well. So that's an interesting sort of way that we could look at that. But I do think it does lend itself to better analytics. You've got better ways of communicating with your audience. You can set up various events, get the registration to the events, as Martin said. So there's lots of different bells and whistles with having a branded page or a business page as opposed to the personal one. So I'd be interested to know if anybody out there has actually got a business page. And it might be worth for us as well to advertise once the page is set up to make sure that people who are still interested in the types of things that we do, if they want to know more about the LinkedIn Live workflows and the products and things that's going to be sold, then they actually all come over to there. So we'll definitely start advertising more on that. But again, we have to understand what the criteria is. We know it's 150 followers, but could you circumvent that if you've got enough followers from a personal perspective? And I was saying to Martin before, it would be nice if the people that are the admins of the actual business page, if they have a large following, then surely the business page would inherit that as well. It's almost like you're starting from scratch. If you have this huge following like you have, and now you have to build up another following just because you're using the page that's there, but you're yet an admin of that, or you're the owner of that page. I don't know. Maybe you'll be able to find something out if you contact LinkedIn to see what that is. But from what I've read, the criteria at the moment is 150 followers at least to start being able to have the ability to live stream at least.
Yeah, so I mean, it also raises various different questions and challenges for me as well. So of course, because I own my personal page and my company page, it's not an issue for me. I can go straight in, do whatever I want, really. However, if you are a company employee, you're going to need admin rights to go live stream from the company page, which is completely understandable. You don't just want any employee to turn up and live stream on a corporate page. Yeah, I work for Zoom. I'm live streaming, talking all sorts of nonsense under the corporate banner. So you couldn't have that. And to some degree, in a lot of cases, that's going to be therefore a barrier. So the question is, do I recommend going live streaming from company page? Yes, for a lot of reasons. But on the other hand, no, for other reasons, in that it could be very, very difficult for you to actually achieve going live on the company page. So then it becomes, why are you going live anyway? Are you actually doing something which is associated with your company, or are you just talking about something which is of general interest to you, but you're putting it out there on LinkedIn? Do you have permission to go onto LinkedIn and say the things that you're saying from the people you work with? There's a lot of complexity in there, which means it's kind of swings and roundabouts with, should I go live on the personal page? Should I go live on the company page? It's a difficult one. And thanks, James, for popping in and watching us innovate or experiment. I think it's probably a lot closer to innovation.
And I think it's interesting that we're able to just take this format and play with it right now. I mean, as we said, LinkedIn is eventually going to be pushing vertical live streams. So we want to make sure that we're future-proofing that, and we can help you with your journey as well if that's what you want to do. And it's interesting because there's so many platforms that are still doing vertical. It isn't going away, as we've mentioned before. And even with YouTube now breaking some sort of metrics where many people are watching the YouTube videos on the big screen, there's nothing stopping you. If you wanted to, you could still watch this shorts formatted vertical video on your big screen. It would probably look very good. In fact, I'm probably going to have a look at that later once we finish the stream, just to see what it looks like. Because even so, you still get the black bars either side, but it still be quite large on a screen. So I think there's plenty of scope for using the vertical format, and especially when you can get information pushed out into this format in the real estate that Martin's been able to create. So I think there's a lot of good ways of actually delivering your material and your content and so on.
So let's just try that. It's almost as if you knew where I was going.
Oh,
that's jumped about all over the place, isn't it?
That's interesting. Oh well. Breaking things as we go along, but that's what we
breaking do. Things as we are. In fairness, we're using a beta version of the software of Ecamm Live, so anything can happen. And also, I haven't set out my scenes in a particularly great order, so we're jumping about here. So the new version of the software, I would encourage people who are using it to always go sequentially if you're going to be doing live motion, because I suspect that was a live motion leap about, which it probably did do the right thing. It's just I didn't have my scenes in the right order. So when we saw Neil giving the explanation a little earlier on of what was going on and how we were connecting Restream and LinkedIn and YouTube and Zoom and Ecamm all together and going live streaming, that was actually a little video that I recorded in Keynote. So what I've got here below us at the moment is actually a Keynote deck. So let me come over to my Keynote presentation now, and I've got my little clicker just to demonstrate that I'm on doing a Keynote presentation. But if I go to my next scene, this is my Keynote presentation that I have below me, and clicking on my clicker I can start my presentation off. And I was interested to see just how much we would be able to get on the screen in this space. Now, I guess the first question from most people would be, how have you got your Keynote to sit in that format, in that space? Well, it's not immediately apparent, to be honest with you, for most people, but you can set a custom document size in Keynote for your presentation. So it's typically 1920 by 1080. That's the 1920 across the top, 1080 down the side. That's the normal size for a widescreen presentation in Keynote. It doesn't have to always be that way. You can set custom size. So you go over to the Documents tab in Keynote, select Custom, and then you can put in any size that you want. So if I wanted this to be a square presentation below us, it could be sitting there in square. In my case, what I decided I wanted to do was make it 2/3 of the size of the screen tall and 1080 wide. So it's 1080 by 1260. So that's 1920 divided by 3 times 2, if that makes sense. So what I've got below me is a keynote slide, but I've formatted it to not vertical, but 2/3 of the vertical, and therefore it gives me quite a bit of space to play with out there. And I'm just now going to bring in a little bit more text so that when we look back on the phone, we can discover whether or not this is readable, and I can understand just how far I can push the content in this space. So this is me going to one extreme and having quite small quite small text down here. But if I go to my next slide, I'm going for a far bigger, more business-like text. And again, I've sort of just started to colour match my slide to some degree in with the background. For those of you who know Keynote, there is now a rotating background, so actually you'll see that the pinks and the blues are colour rolling effectively in the background of that agenda slide. But this is a typical format for most slides, for most agendas, so something very, very simple but clear. And again, it's all an experiment. We want to go have a look back the way and see what this looks like. And if I come up to my last slide, it could be something very, very simple. So this would be the simplest of simple slides. I don't think I'd ever put a slide together that looked just like this. In fact, I tend not to use too many bullet points. I would prefer to have graphics or infographics in that particular space and talk over the infographic or something like that. But the point of this exercise was to check how big the text appears when we're looking at it on our phone, which one of those slides actually performs the best or looks the most decent. So let's just jump back to me and you next to one another, which could do anything. Oh.
Yeah, it's a little bit clunky at the moment. So, but
I don't know what's going on today. It doesn't normally do that. But
no, we are running the latest version that only came out yesterday. So we're just 24 hours in with the version, aren't we? So there may be a few quirks and things going on as well.
So that's what we wanted to try out today. Really, that's the purpose of today's session, was just so we can go look back at things on the phone and find out how big they are and how small they are. And we also have another pop-up version of this show later this week, and that is going to involve a couple of wonderful guests. We've got Alec Johnson. Now, Alec is coming in from Thailand, and then we have Fulgence Henry, and he's coming in from the US, and Neil's in Portugal, and I'm in Edinburgh. So we had to find like a common time of the day that we could all actually make it, which is more difficult than you may think to get from Thailand to the east coast of the US. So we've settled on doing it at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So that's going to be 8 o'clock in the morning for Eastern Time for Fulgence. So he'll be having his morning coffee. We'll be having our lunch at 1 o'clock, and Alec will be having his dinner at 8 p.m. in Thailand. So we're all going to come on the show on Friday, and hopefully I've had a bit more prep time, and we'll do some fancy stuff in that particular show. But we will also incorporate a bit of Streamer Live and some fancy intros and talk around how we're doing that, and just generally speak to Alec as a technical super expert on everything, and Fulgence, who's got a lot of experience on going live in vertical format on other platforms, so not on LinkedIn so much, but certainly on just about every other platform that it's available on. And he's done live selling and all sorts of things. So it'll be interesting to get Fulgence's take on the whole vertical video space alongside Alec's take as well. And that's something to look forward to.
So that's definitely popping up on Friday, which is great because it is trying to like herd cats sometimes, trying to find a happy medium between the time zones for everybody. So that'll be fun, and we're looking forward to sharing that and bringing everybody in via Zoom. And of course, it's still going to be a Zoom call. And this Thursday at a regular time for Tech Talk Thursday, I'm going to be walking you through some updates and things to consider when you are taking your camera out and about. So whether you're setting up your camera as just a studio camera as you have here, or if you're getting a multi-camera setup, or if you're a photographer or a videographer, I'm going to be telling you all about the exposure triangle and how to get proper exposure for your camera, and just trying to demystify some of these terms that you've heard all the time: shutter speed, frame rates, aperture, and really just to explain what they are and how they affect your overall image, whether it be your video image or your photography. And if you're just setting up a basic camera, even webcams now have all these controls in them, things like white balance, exposure, shutter speed, and stuff like that. So stick around for that. Thursday, 5 p.m. UK, noon Eastern. I'm getting confused with all these time zones, but that's right. But they're all scheduled on our respective channels, so you can go and look at them there, which is great.
And will you be talking about camo as well during that session?
I can talk about Camo and bring up Camo and show an example, because really Camo is a great app for those of you that don't know what it is. It's an app that you can use both on Windows and Mac, and it will allow you to take in any webcam. That could be from your phone, it could be an old webcam, a Logitech or something like that, and allows you to have a lot of control, very similar to what I've just mentioned. So you have all the control over the camera, even if your camera actually doesn't support it. So it's a great tool to have. You can even put in some fake bokeh blur in the background as well, if you don't have the lens that supports that. So let's take a look at Camo. I can certainly go through that. The presentation isn't very long anyway, it's just a few slides, but it's hopefully going to help people, especially in the menu system of the cameras. Where are these actual settings and so on. So looking forward to our shows. Let's do 6 shows a week now, shall we?
We've got too many. It's something that I struggle with. There's so many menus available in the camera. But you wouldn't think I would. When I've got 100 windows open on Ecamm, you would think I'd be able to manage a few menus on a camera. But I think there's 10 pages of menus on my ZV-E10, and each page has got 10 items on. I think there must be 100 settings comfortably on the camera, I think.
Definitely. All right.
So a couple of different bits and bobs we have going on here, because I've just got a scene here. I'm just going to, again, show a little scene change here, and you just have to imagine this is where our guests are, and that we've got a presentation or a streamer live session going on in the middle. So again, I just wanted to check this out for size and shape on the screen, and to see what that looked like, because it's quite different from what we've been doing before. So we're going to try that one, or there was just myself and Neil with a practice comment. We can just add James's comment to the broadcast. So again, I was trying to stay within these pink lines here, and there's a bit of a secret with the pink lines going on around me, which I should leave as a trade secret really. But for those of you who are geeky enough and want to know how I've managed to get a blur around me in multiple colours, so relatively easy to put a blur around yourself, but the blur will only tend to be in one corner. So let's go back to the 2-person large. It'll be more obvious, because you might just have seen a bit of background squares going on behind us there. So if I turn off my camera here totally, in fact I'm going to turn Neil's camera off.
Turn mine off.
I've done that.
It's easier.
So what we've got going on behind here is actually a bunch of squares. So if I grab this one here, which is currently, I'm just going to check it's unlocked, yes it is, and move it down. Now it's locked as a group, which is probably sensible. But if I ungroup them, then move this out the way, what you're going to see is that I've got a square with a bit of a blur around it. Now the challenge here is if I just had a square with a bit of blur around one corner of it, that's all you're going to see. I wouldn't get the blur all the way around the camera and in different colours. So what I've actually done is I've placed 4 squares in various different colours and then laid them over each other slightly, and that allows me to put a shadow on each shape and then create a blur in the background and then match it all up so as it sits nicely. But instead of just having a blur in one corner, I end up having the blur all the way around, and I could change all the colours of that if I really wanted to. So I should then bring Neil back in again, and that's where we get that nice changes in the colours around the edge. So just to show you the change of colours as well, if I took one of these cameras here and changed the colour of the blur to orange, then red, cyan, whatever I wanted to, I can change the colour. And actually, I think the original version I seen of this, they had 4 different colours going on, so let's just try that for giggles while we are here. So that's that one. We'll leave that one as blue, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that one to orange. No. Or not, that's Ecamm doesn't want me to. Oh, it does, it's just that I pressed the wrong button. I now have to apologise to Ecamm because it's the glow I wanted to change and not the fill. And lastly, let's come back and change that last one as well, just out of fun. Colour pink, and let's make that one yellow. So you can play about to your heart's consent with that little hack and trick. First time I've tried that myself, but I think that'll look really good on a darker background than this as well, actually, because it will give you that kind of indented 3D look, and you could choose your corporate colours and match that in there, and I think it's could look pretty smart. So
looks really good.
Cool. So let's go back to 2 people small, and I think it's been a lot shorter show today than it normally is, because we normally have some guests on and we end up talking for an hour. I suspect we'll comfortably be doing an hour come Friday, and because we're talking about cameras on Thursday, we'll definitely do an hour about cameras as well. So but for today, if you've got any other passing comments or closing comments, Neil, it's up to you, but I think we'll probably just run the show down.
Run the show down. Thanks to everybody who's joined, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thanks for joining.
Okay, thanks for joining. See you later, folks.